Alright everyone, it's time to talk about Carlos Maza, at GayWonk on Twitter, because he's apparently negotiating a severance package from Vox. He's a big-time sort of boogeyman from the far, far left that tries to get deplatforming going. Like, he's had a thing with Steven Crowder now for the better part of a year or something, where he's trying to get him kicked off YouTube. He rambles about Tucker Carlson. Basically, if a person has any views that Carlos Maza doesn't like, he becomes enraged and he becomes obsessive. Now, it's funny because actually, initially, when the Crowder stuff started happening, I was going to go to his Twitter and see like the weird shit that he was saying and couldn't because he had preemptively blocked me. So I guess I get brownie points for being one of the people that Carlos Maza doesn't like, which makes me a cool person. You can actually sort of get a who's who of who's cool and who's relevant and worth listening to by looking at the people that the trashy side of censorship-loving Twitter block preemptively. I seem to be on a lot of those lists, so I take some solace in that. I think it's a great compliment when soccer moms block me. It happens quite a bit. So he rage quits as far as debating anyone. He just wants to have his one-sided monologue-style platform, and that's really what a lot of these censorship lovers want, by the way. They want to kick off all the independent content creators, all the relevant, interesting, hip, and intelligent people, in order to have their boring monologues uninhibited, because they're tired of the fact that no one actually likes them. They can create the illusion that people like them on these platforms. If all of their critics go away, then they can sleep soundly at night. It won't help them be more popular, but it'll help them feel more popular, basically. Now it looks like he took it too far, and his constant calls for censorship and his constant whining to Vox to back him up, essentially like, Steven's being mean to me again. Oh, people are saying weird shit to me on Twitter like they do to every fucking buddy else on Twitter. I need to back up from Vox. Apparently they got tired of it and they said, fuck you. We don't have the money to pay you anyway. Like, the other thing is probably he's above their pay grade at this point. Vox has been sliding backwards for a while. They've got less and less money to give to people. And so Carlos Maza, for better or for worse, is one of the more well-known people that work with them. And so probably he just wanted too much money. That's probably the other part. The legacy media is getting hammered. But the missing link media, the Voxes, the sort of the category that on the right you've got places like Breitbart and The Blaze, especially The Blaze. And on the left you've got like Vox, Salon, HuffPost, and stuff like that. The missing link media are these sites that are technically independent. They are technically not big-style multinational corporations from yesteryear. They're not like cable firms. They don't have a TV show per se. They might have a syndicated bit, but they don't have... They're not CNN or Fox, in other words. They're being hit harder because even though they were more tech-literate and hip, 10, 15 years ago, they suffer from the same problems as the old corporate media, that is getting in late on social media and some of these new sites. They have barely any alt-tech presence, which is going to hammer them hard. They were behind the curve sometimes by years on many of the new advents of the technological era, because they're used to seeing the internet as the internet as the internet. They didn't see the rise of the internet of everything from the internet of things. And that is, before is like, here's my podcast. Now it's like, here's my podcast. It is synchronized with, tied to through clouds and blockchains and weird shit to a syndicated video column and to this website, which has these affiliates. And here's the radio broadcast. Some dude in Alaska's broadcasting it to Anchorage. Everything is interconnected now, and these sites did a very poor job, arguably poorer than the true legacy media at actually branching out. They didn't have the capital to do so. Now they're losing money, and they no longer have the capital to be able to invest in such things. They are declining. That's a good thing for the world. They're even more propagandistic in the tech sense, arguably, than like a CNN or a Fox. Those sites still have the benefit of having their TV shows or their old-style AM radio bullshit. These newer sites, they don't, so they have to get 10 times more vicious. They have to get literally down in the trenches to try to attack people that are 100 times more efficient and cool than they could ever be. So naturally, Maza and Vox thought it was a good idea to pick off more than they could chew with Steven Crowder. The problem is he's getting more popular over time. They're getting less popular. He's interesting and funny to listen to. Vox is about as interesting as watching grass grow. So this has become a perennial problem with these groups. They're picking fights with independent creators, and it's like this weird situation where I guess these people are egotists. and they don't have a sense of strategy. And so they're constantly trying to make a name for themselves by harassing people, essentially, which is what it boils down to. This was harassment of Crowder, not harassment of Maza. I've experienced the same thing. These people will harass me, notably Right Wing Watch. It's happened to Paul Joseph Watson. It happens to fucking everyone. If you have an audience at all, of any real size, if you're politically hip, if you're making independent content, you will eventually be harassed or verbally abused or defamed by these people. They're hoping for a response. No, I mean, they don't want the kind of response they typically get, which is they get socked in the cock. But they think over and over, just like an animal incapable of learning, that if they do it a little bit differently this time, that they'll win. They'll look cool. They'll be like Chris Cuomo threatening to throw a man down the stairs. They'll look macho or something. That's basically what it boils down to. Really, it's a bunch of fucking bullshit. All of these people are basically just, starch-shirted wonks. And they have no other marketable skills in life. They don't even know how to make their own content. They can't do what we're doing because they don't have the skills to do so. They rely upon a third party in order to help put their message out there. It's the only way they can exist at all. And they're messed up. And Maza, every time that somebody calls him out, he gets red in the face. He gets all weird about it. He assumes that they're being homophobic even if they don't mention sexual orientation. And he gets all self-righteous and he begs these corporations to back him up. Ooh, we need to deplatform hate. And really what it's about is he wants to deplatform critics of Carlos Maza. That's really what it boils down to. They're losing. The corporate media clearly is not fighting fair, but they're still losing anyway. It's funny because they got down into the dirt and acted, really, really dubious, and they backstab people, and they do all of these shitty things. So they ruin their reputation, they still lose. So now even their names, their brands are irreparably tarnished. Like, there's a reason why people increasingly distrust the corporate media. What about the missing link media, though? The Voxes and the Breitbarts and the Salons and stuff. They're just as bad, arguably in some cases worse. Breitbart kind of, sort of retooled itself, but like the Blaze didn't. Glenn Beck's people, my goodness. Or like Shapiro's people. A bunch of cults of personality. Now people are rambling. They're saying, well, Tucker Carlson might be gone from Fox. They're saying Ben Shapiro might replace him. That would be hilarious to me. I would definitely make a video on this. I'd do a fucking live stream on that subject, how funny that would be to me. You should have Ann Coulter on as his co-host, too. A meeting of the minds. The people who sold out, I suppose. That's about all. Peace out.